Hi, I'm Ward Schrader, co-host of Bargain Mansions with my daughter Tamara Day. I wanted to share with you one of the projects I've worked on for the last 12 years. This is my 1974 Bronco that a good friend of mine, well maybe not so good or he wouldn't have given it to me because it's been an expensive, long project, but he gave me a 1974 Bronco that was sitting in his pasture with holes as big as basketballs in the floor and in the rear, in the fenders and everywhere else. And I started working on it. I thought it'd be a fun project. In the process, I've used one vendor consistently, which was called Tom's Bronco. Tom sold me this tilt steering wheel. Tom sold me the repair parts for my Hirsch shifter. Tom sold me the aluminum or the stainless panels for my doors. Tom sold me an awful lot of things that were great in helping me rebuild it, including almost all of the sheet metal on the outside of this vehicle that I replaced, which was probably 70% of the sheet metal. He, as I understand it, bought the Ford dies in 1974 when they quit building these Broncos, or 1977, and I bought it from him. Everything fit perfectly. I didn't have to ream anything out, do anything like that at all. It all just went together. I bought from Tom, not from Tom, but I did buy RCI 5-point seat harness so that I could maintain my position when I'm on a rough road. I bought RC by Smitty built seats that have great bolsters and they cushion me and they provide me a nice ride. I've got Aries steps because I raised this vehicle 2.5 inches when I was working on it. So I took this vehicle down to the last bolt in the frame and started over. I sandblasted the frame, I powder coated it black. I actually put, with the help of a company called Chromatize, do this rubber sealant material not only on the upper side of the tub, which is the body, but also underneath it on where rocks and things would hit the threshold. I put it on there. I got a Best Top from Best Top, but I raised this thing 2.5 inches with Tom's Bronco's parts kit to do that, which means that you had to extend the shocks. I actually welded 2 shocks or a second shock onto the front and then assembled it. I had to buy new fuel lines, brake lines. I got Mickey Thompson tires and Method wheels. And one of the problems that when you do that is they're so big that the old brakes, the drum brakes, don't stop it very well. So I rebuilt the front and put disc brakes on the front, and it stops really pretty darn well right now. But the lift kit required new drive lines and an awful lot of assembly. But Chromatized helped me do the finish. I did the major, what I'll call the crude body work. I welded most of the things onto this thing. So in the process, when it started folding up, when I was lifting it off of the frame and I folded it and it started folding up, I set it back down immediately and I started welding, and I think I put 60 to 70 hours of welding in on this thing, putting new sheet metal on it that would hold it together so it didn't fail. Then I could lift it off. Then I could sandblast, actually bead blast, little plastic beads, blast the body because they don't overheat the body, they don't warp it, what was left of it. And that was pretty slick, worked really well. And so while the body was off and I was getting bead blasted, I was working on the drive line. So I rebuilt the complete engine front to back, put headers on it, put Fitec fuel injection on it, put an electronic distributor system on it, a new radiator. Okay, let's look under this hood and see all the things that I did. To start with, the old 74 Broncos had a metal stick here that hooked into this hole and held the hood up. So I started off by putting these shock absorbers that have a spring to them that help lift the hood and close it a little bit more gently. I actually added power steering. Lots of Broncos didn't have power steering back in the day. I put the electronic ignition system on and the Fitec fuel injection, which is really slick, along with the Fitec fuel tank and the internal fuel pump and all the lines and the sensors that are welded into the exhaust. It just works like a dream. I put a hydraulic booster onto the brake system, and all of the metal you see in here, almost all of it is brand new because the old was rusted out, including the battery mounts. So when I get in the mountains with this thing and maybe I have a problem, I want a battery that's going to last. So I put a heavy duty Optima battery in here. I should never have any trouble cranking this thing over long enough to get it running. If I have a problem with it not running, there's something else wrong, serious wrong. So I've been driving this for a couple of months now, and I have had zero trouble. It starts every time. It runs smoothly. It gets a lot of attention. I can't go anywhere in this thing without somebody wanting to trade me a Porsche for it or buy it from me. But so far, I haven't succumbed to that. I've spent 12 years rebuilding this. I don't think I'm giving it up easily. It's too much fun. So thank you for letting me present my Bronco to you. And I hope you enjoy watching Bargain Mansions and my daughter Tamara and I and what we do with houses around Kansas City. So as an example of all the assembly that I had to manufacture, this whole corner was totally rotten. So I welded in this piece first, then I welded in this piece. You can see the seams, barely. Then this little section was still here, so I welded this plate on here, then I welded this plate on here, then I welded an angle iron on the top. I scabbed in some parts up here. All of this was to try and hold it together so I could just get it off and start really working on it.